Unfuckwithable Woman, a space where we return to the wisdom of the body, unearth the power of our stories, and reclaim the life that colonisation, patriarchy, and disembodied healing tried to silence. I'm Briony Montgomery, somatic therapist, mother, guide, and founder of the Somatherapy Collective. Today, we're diving into a theme that lives at the heart of what I teach and live every day, and it's called integrated practice. Not as abstract as you think it may be, but as a living, breathing part of your daily rhythm. We'll explore what integrated practice means, why so many people feel like their healing work just isn't landing, and how the very architecture of trauma, the nervous system, and inherited patterns impacts our capacity to stay with the work. We'll talk about the archetypes that keeps us cycling through collapse and burnout, and how we begin to tend to these parts with compassion, rhythm, and embodied tools. This episode isn't a checklist, it's an invitation into your body, into what it means to live your healing, not perform it, not mask up with it, to bring your rituals, your grief, your truth into the kitchen, the car, the argument, the bath, the boardroom, the backyard, and with your kids. So let's begin. I want to start first with explaining and sharing what an integrated practice looks like. Healing is often sold to us as an outcome, a result, like something you get to, like a mountain summit, like a peak, like there is some kind of utopia at the end of this arduous journey. But if you've ever found yourself reaching the end of the course or a program or a breakthrough moment and then wondering why your nervous system still doesn't trust rest, then you're not alone. Integrated practice is the work after the work. It's the living, the repetition, the recalibration that happens in the quiet spaces. It's how we tend to our healing in motion. It's not linear, it's cyclical. Just like the body, just like nature. And it's not something you outsource, it's something you return to again and again with kindness, discipline, and spaciousness. This is what I teach in the Somatherapy Collective, that integration isn't a performance of progress, it's a practice of presence. It's where your mind meets your body, where insight becomes embodiment. It's the difference between knowing about the nervous system and being with your nervous system in real time. Integration lives in the small moments. The breath you remember to take before saying yes when your body means no. The hand on your heart in the car before school pickup. The choice to take a pause rather than power through. These aren't soft gestures, they're radical, revolutionary. Because every time you choose to integrate, you're choosing to interrupt the legacy of disembodiment. You're building a nervous system that can hold your truth, not just survive, but belong, connect, and rise. And that's why it's really important that when we're doing work where we're healing and seeking teachers and seeking community, that we're doing it in a way that's not just retreat focused. Like we can get, and there are women who are quite addicted to retreats, to going out, taking yourself from your reality and putting yourself into this kind of privilege or kind of structured and performance retreat where you can connect with others in this way that makes it feel like when you come back into life, it's quite a disjointed way and kind of like the bubble kind of bursts. When you have this kind of retreat or ideology where you go to and it's all kind of like created and held and everyone is being moved and invited in a particular way in order to engage with the learnings, the teachings, and their body, that then coming back into the reality, it can be very difficult in order to actually move those teachings or that those threads that you've learned into the day-to-day, into community, into your family, into your work. And so when we move with practice, it's really important that we understand and we move with it in a way that meets day-to-day living and being in the world. And it's not that we don't go on retreats, but we just need to understand that retreat like atmosphere is a binary. It's a performance. It's been created as a way to kind of step in and nourish and fill your cup, though it is also, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you also need to step out of that in order to reintegrate into the world. And often in somatic therapy, when we're dealing with trauma, we're building a pleasure vortex as well. And if we build too much pleasure and we move back into the trauma, then too much pleasure can make it so much difficult to move back into the trauma. So too much pleasure, too much of not what's real in your world and how you show up and how you commune and how you are relationally being in your life or living your life. If you have too much in that retreat space where it's too much not based or grounded in the reality of your own life and you move back into your life, it can be really jolting to your nervous system, and your nervous system can collapse. Like, you can just shut down and you can start to feel very disillusioned in relation to your life and who you are and your capacity and your lineage. So that also can bring invitation into bringing about change if it's not aligned with you. Absolutely, there's a place for that. At the same time, we need to be aware that when we're moving into spaces and places where there's practice, where there's concentrated practice with community and other people, that space is not necessarily the reality in which you're going to be practicing outside of it. So integrating practice in the day-to-day is like taking those wonderful resources and practices that you learn in a safe and held space and integrating them bit by bit into your everyday in order to feel the benefits of a retreat type atmosphere in the small micro moments of your journey, of your day. So let's move deeper into why healing just doesn't stick. It doesn't it kind of hits a point and then it plateaus and then we can't get deeper. So we live in a culture that fetishes healing, and spirituality is colonized. It's hierarchical now. There's capitalism. There's lots of profit to be made, and it's like a machine. So when we engage with healing, you need to be aware that there is now an element of colonization happening within the field, and you need to be more discerning on what you interact with and what you connect with in the field, because once an area has been colonized to the extent that spirituality has, then you're actually still cycling in the same toxic dynamic. You're still marinating in the same oppression and violence that you are trying to heal within the body. So we consume healing at a high rate now, and we scroll for it. We sign up for it. We are in a pain phobic culture, and we think that, and it's been sold that spirituality and healing is a way out. It's not a way out. It's a way through. You cannot sidestep pain or grief or anger. Healing is a tool to be used to get through, not to move around or away from. What we don't do with healing now, because it's colonized, is we don't let it change us. We still want to hold on to some parts of ourselves or parts in our life that we're benefiting from. Yeah, I get it. I have the same. I have been there. I still am there. Less often these days, but definitely still there. Healing, the whole array of healing and cycle of healing is the transformation. It doesn't leave one cell not impacted in the body. It doesn't leave one thread or one level or layer of vibration that it's not impacted, that's not transformed by its threads, by its medicine. It's not that we don't want to change. It's because coming back to the nervous system, that our bodies don't feel safe enough yet to receive it. The nervous system needs to feel, the body needs to feel safe and have capacity to actually allow the transformation to happen, to actually allow the healing to change us. So if your nervous system is still wired for survival, it doesn't matter how many books you've read or courses you've done, you'll default to old patterns when stress hits. I see this all the time in the clinic space with students, in my community, in my field, in my relational field. High functioning women who know that they have trauma or know their trauma, and they can name what their response is, but they are still stuck in cycles of collapse, resentment, overgiving, and freeze. And they think they're failing. They're not sure why. They've named all the things. They know their system. They know what they're doing. They even know their attachment. But the truth is they're still in survival mode. They haven't integrated the healing. They haven't integrated the practice. The healing hasn't failed them. The integration has been missing. Your nervous system needs repetition, rhythm, co-regulation, and embodied repair. Without it, your body doesn't know how to relax into safety. It's not wired for safety. It cannot even look around and see what safety looks like. That's why at the Somatherapy Collective, we focus on slow, relational, body-led healing, because it's not about doing more. It's about learning about who you are, integrating the practice, and learning how to do it and meet your body in the way it needs to be met. So let's talk about archetypes that sabotage integration. So archetypes that interrupt our capacity to live integrated lives where we're practicing in the moment every day and showing up to that as a pattern within our life. These are not pathologies, they're protective strategies. Archetypes are protective strategies. They arise when your body has been taught that it's safer to abandon yourself than to feel. The parentified child becomes the one who holds it all. She grew up too fast. She learnt that her value came from being needed. Integration feels selfish to her. The martyr survives by disappearing. She believes that depletion is a virtue, that to stop is to crumble. She can't rest because rest feels like a threat. And the death mother is the inner critic born from trauma. She controls, suppresses, disassociates. She keeps you small because that's what she was taught safety was about. And then we have the hollowed out woman who arrives in midlife, and she is a culmination of a life lived for others. She is tired, disconnected. She wants more, but she doesn't know how to ask. So many more archetypes that we can really actually look towards and that we have embodied or that we have as a reference. And there are also parts within us as well that represent a deeper, more intricate and intimate experience that steps forward as protective parts at times to keep us safe in our body when we are feeling dysregulated and when we are feeling unsafe. These archetypes are connected to nervous system states, and there can be many at once, or there can just be a couple or just one. When we begin to map and meet them in the body with compassion and skill, they start to soften, they start to integrate more. We can work with these archetypes and these parts within ourselves. And the parts I'm not going to go into in this episode. That's something I do one-on-one in the clinic space. But these archetypes are like a really great way of touching on these protective parts that we have and that we have learnt and adapted in order to keep ourselves safe. And when we start to move towards them and start to integrate them more, then they start to soften, and then we can start to work collaboratively with them. And that's when the power returns. Because when we work with nervous system and the work that I do, we don't get rid of anything. We are moving more stuff in to the system, more stuff in to connect with us in order for us to really root in and anchor and connect in with the power and the pleasure and the resources that we have within ourselves and our lineage. So let's talk about living the work and what integration feels like. It's not about being regulated all the time. It's not even about balance, because the balance is a colonized word, and I like to use the word flow more. And because flow will have a very different meaning to each person, it's really about returning. It's about repair. Integration is messy. It includes the rupture. It's gritty. It includes resistance, but it's held by a deeper rhythm, one where your body is no longer the enemy. It's trusting your anger as sacred information, letting your grief take space instead of apologizing for it, learning to notice before you're going to shut down, not after. Staying with sensation without bringing story to it for 30 seconds longer than you used to. Reaching for support before the spiral. In my own life, integration has looked like leaving relationships that mirrored my trauma, or fed trauma, or created trauma, or also fed and created and propped up the patterning of my ancestral lineage. It's also meant relearning how to be held, how to be in relationship in a secure way. Listening to my daughters when they mirror back what I'm too tired to see. Having those hard conversations with my children and listening about the ruptures that have happened within our journey together and how I can then start the repair process. Choosing to cry in front of my children so they know that grief is allowed. I didn't learn this in a textbook. I learnt it on and in the chaos and the momentum and the pulsation of life, of connecting to the earth, of being relational with my day to day, with the flow of the day, with symbols of the day, with messages and interactions. I learnt this with learning how to be in groups of people and sharing, and particularly with women. I learnt this through rupture and repair again and again and again. The most incredible thing to learn is that rupture and repair model. Just hands down the best thing to implement into your life. So I want to close by talking about the revolution of everyday practice. So if you take nothing else from today, let it be this. Integration is not glamorous. It's gritty. It's not for the performance. It's for the lineage. It's for the deep hold within your system. It's for the connection with others and your body. It's for the healing, the deeply held, anchored, unshakable, I've got this, and I'm seeing it through rise and healing that you own, that nobody can take from you. It's how we begin to live lives that aren't about surviving but thriving. It's how we become unfuckwithable. It's not because we're invulnerable, but because we're grounded, we're anchored, and we're rooted. If this episode resonates with you, I'd love for you to share this episode, subscribe, join at the somatherapycollective.com, join the community, and share it with somebody that is on a healing journey right now and may be really struggling to see it through, or really struggling or feeling blocked that they can't move through or past this cycle that keeps repeating itself. Visit www.somatherapycollective.com/podcast to dive deeper into my other episodes, and check me out on all the social platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And remember, your body is the revolution, so let's live it.